Hello, thank you so much for coming to this. We're here to talk about designing for a better future. It's sustainability in production design, not only in the way that we have our protocols and the way we do things, but in actually creating the world for it. We have a little video first to show to you from Pulp Art Surfaces, our sponsor for this panel. They make amazing products out of pulp and paper to bake on your walls without making a giant mess. So a word from our sponsor, please.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Production Design panel. I'm Danielle, owner of Pulp Art Surfaces. As sponsor of this panel, I just want to make sure you know a little bit about our products. We offer dimensional wall panels made from recycled newspaper, cardboard, and wood chips, faux brick, faux stone, things like that. Our panels are eco-friendly, which is huge for our industry, but they're also extremely durable. They paint well. They are made from natural materials, so they have that natural look instead of a shiny plastic. I think this is the major reason that productions like Abbott Elementary and Only Murders in the Building and thousands more have switched from plastics and fiberglass to our eco-friendly panels. We are located in Los Angeles. We ship worldwide. We've also established distributors in high production areas like Atlanta, New York, Vancouver, and Toronto, just to make our panels a little bit easier to get. We even have a distributor in Stockholm, but there are still a lot of production designers, art directors, and construction coordinators who just don't know about us, especially outside of the United States. So we're asking you to help us spread the word. Please tell your colleagues. For those of you who have used our panels, we thank you, we appreciate it. For those of you who haven't, we hope you will. Enjoy the rest of the gathering and enjoy this panel. Thank you very much.
I've worked with their materials, and they're actually really fantastic, so I recommend you looking further into them. As production designers, we are the first line of defense when it comes into things. We have a lot of influence over the story, so we can influence how things are done and what that narrative is. And it's intuitive. We have enormous contribution to the movement. We create an aspirational world of what's going on. Why shouldn't we be designing a world that already involves being sustainable, recycling, reusing? We can create the new normal within the designs that we have. You've seen this happen with sexual harassment. You've seen this happening with being healthy and safety. There were tropes that were used in worlds that aren't used anymore because we've decided as a society that's not how we're going forward. So it's kind of up to us to create this world and to bring it forth for people watch it on TV, they see it on TV, they think, oh, this is how we go. But as far as the steps of actually making filmmaking not be wasteful, that's a real challenge. And something I overheard at lunch the other day, when they asked what panel we were on, a man came up and asked us this, and we said, oh, we're on the sustainable panel. And he went, oh, good luck. And that really stuck with me, because that's the wrong attitude to have. It's not luck at all. We have it within us. We're brilliant. We are the achievers, we are the dreamers, we are the doers, and we create the world that nobody else is doing. So it doesn't take luck, it takes communication, and it takes dedication, and it takes passion, and that's what we all need to do. We need to rebrand our way of thinking, that it's not a challenge to do this, but simply the way forward. We just need to think about it a little bit different. And I've been joined here with Schwartz, Valérie Valéro, and Amy Steely, who are also doing wonderful things in this world and have examples of some of the crafts that they have done, making great progressions to be able to help their productions make less of an impact and move more into the future that we would like to do. So shall we start with you and Amy? We can show one of your projects. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Sure. It's Amelia. Just
Sorry,
to make sure
I'm
it's all-
really
it's all
sorry.
right, it's all right.
I'm so very nervous. I am not a presenter.
I mean, I kind of, I submitted a lot of images that we can roll through, maybe rather than talk about each individual one, but I tried to get as many reusable materials as possible. And actually, we could stop on this one. This one is a set where I had limited budget and resources, as we always do, and I wanted to make it sustainable. And I wanted to show you all sort of these like images of doing the best that you can with what you've got. The term to me, like a term zero waste, is I think the bar it's something that I want to achieve, but I think that bar is so high that when I have a limited amount of time and resources, I'm going to try to do the best that I can. So I designed this set in such a way that the materials could be sent back or brought back to people as if new and completely reused. So so if you're grading me on sustainability, I'm not going to get an A with this project. Like, welcome to our talk, the very first project. It's not the like most sustainable, but the sustainability aspect of it is this is when my mind sort of started shifting and realizing how much power I had and how I needed to design for the trash that this would become from the beginning. So I used to get really stuck with this burden of trash at the end of a shoot and not knowing what to do and saying, oh, I have 5 wall panels, I have a roll of flooring, I don't know where it goes. And that burden often falls on 1 or 2 people in the department. It often falls on the lowest paid people in the department. And this one I thought about from the beginning, how do I make something that can essentially be folded up, stored, reused, and in this case, this was a commercial. The clients weren't going to take it, so I needed to find places for it from the beginning. And so what I did is when I made these renderings, I sent them to different places, like different places where flats are stored in Los Angeles. That's where I'm based, and asked them if they wanted them at that point, not in the 24-hour period at which this got, that we strike and throw out. You can keep circling through them. So I used individual tiles that could then be stacked up and put back. That's Ryan. She's an incredible scenic painter. I designed custom stained glass windows that the client was initially going to keep, but for some complicated reasons, went back to the fabricator, and the fabricator has continued to reuse them on multiple sets. Here we go. So here, just some more examples. And the flats, as you can tell, they're pretty thick. The windows are pretty thick. So I designed them in such a way that thick recess can be taken off so they can be stacked in a more flat way and then moved much more easily. This is a fun one. This is a pizza-themed conversation pit. There's cheese and sauce everywhere. This one I designed based on reusable materials. So sometimes as designers we get this aspect of you can do something fast, cheap, or good. I like to think that this turned out pretty good. We had almost no money, and we had quite a lot of time. So what I did with that time is I went back continuously to a resource that we have in LA called EcoSet Recycling, and they were able to. They gave us the pizza crusts that you see. That's like that velvety material back there is like a reupholstered crust, vinyl flooring, and the carpeting were all reused. And I took those materials, and it was still about a month before the set, before our shoot date, and I was able to design based on the free and reused materials we had. And then I made sure we were using food products that, the cheese, the fake cheese is like a cornstarch product, and the tomato sauce is real tomato sauce, but I researched and tested materials to make sure all of that could come out of the fabric, so the fabric could be reused. And so we were able to, I had a personal goal, basically going back to the last set, I started from the beginning thinking, what will happen to this trash at the end? What is a difficult but attainable goal? And my goal was to only make 2 bags, 2, I don't know, American-sized trash bags of trash by the end of the shoot, and that's what I did. I made sure art department kept using the same trash bins. If they had a little scrap of fabric with tomato sauce on it, I would be like, no, it goes in that one. Because I really wanted to calculate and measure for myself the amount of trash that was moving around.
And yeah, that's really wonderful. I love all of these things that
Yeah, they're getting really specific, but
they're really fun. And it is a morale booster when you can track things yourself and then share with your team. Look, we've done this and this and this. It really amps people up to keeping track of things yourself, calculating those metrics yourself, and not just leaving it up to production. So, it really does help move things along.
This is another one, and you can keep going through these. This is a commercial for Audible. Their parent company is Amazon. And so I was telling them from the beginning, again, that we would only make 1 bag of trash on this one. So it's a mix of rental and purchases on there, but the flats are completely recycled. And I make a point of telling the company that at the beginning. For a big company like Amazon, you can look up their ESG reports, you can look up their sustainability goals, and so in a production meeting at the beginning, this is same company, same sort of set, these 1-day interview shoot commercials that I do with them. I look up their reports and I say, hey, you have a goal of being a zero waste company by 2040. I'm going to help you reach that goal by the way that I build this set. And then I give them metrics when I donate the materials at the end. EcoSet, again, is just an invaluable resource in Los Angeles where when you donate the material back to them, they physically measure it, they weigh it, and then they can give you a report that you can give back to your company and say, this amount of waste was diverted from the landfill. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Is everything, even the floors. I found a company that rents linoleum flooring, which is really helpful because that's a really wasteful material.
And when you were planning all this, did you find that you had a lot of support with the agency and the production that you were working with? Did you have any pushback from them, or were they on board?
I had to say, this is what I'm doing. And I always make a point to bring up sustainability in front of more than one producer at a time. If I say it to one producer, I might get a that's really difficult, or that's expensive. If there's 2 producers in the room and you say, this is an ethical dilemma, or we have to be sustainable on this one, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm sustainable. So it's, but I just do it, and I say that it won't affect the budget, and it doesn't, and I say that it won't affect the time or the people we need, that I'm just going to do this in a sustainable way, and I will send them the paperwork afterwards. And that is working really well for these 1-day shoots. I know that as you scale up, it gets a lot more complicated, but I'm able to do that really nicely on these.
That's great. And you're right, when you get on the bigger productions, you have to have these conversations up front really often, really early, communicate that And call the production executive if you have to. Ask to be put in touch with a sustainability expert. And have that supervision. Like on a bigger production, you have to have somebody who's supervising the shop, who's like watching and making sure the chickens don't run out of the coop. And funnily enough, I've heard that sustainability experts aren't allowed to reach out to us. Is that true?
It's true.
I've just learned that. What's up with that? So we need to find them and go, hi, I'm a designer. I would love to make things sustainable. Please, let's just be in touch. Why is it up to us? I don't know. It's another obstacle, but that's something that you should all do, seeking these people out and making a friendship. So, so also educating the production team. That's another thing. It's not just them and a guidebook that's coming on to us and how a step-by-step process of what to do. We should be researching materials, researching protocols, talking to the other members of your crew. So you got the locations department, you got the lighting department, speaking to them and saying, what can I do that will cause less of a lighting package for you? Or we need to have an extra day in wrap so that we can pull screws out so I can box this up and send them through. If you talk to all of the departments, you'll find that there's a give and take that actually kind of sometimes will balance things out. So you can go to the production and say, I know that you said that this is going to be a lot more expensive if we have this translate, but if all these people combine their sources and we're not so siloed within our own departments, there's usually a solution that we can find collectively. And that's just something I'm going to bang on again and again and again and again. It is a collective process, and we can't be so within ourselves and think that the burden is only on our shoulders. If we share all of this communication, there's a way forward with this. And let's go to you.
Okay. Hi. If you could put the infographic up and just maybe go to I think it's like the third slide. So I'm going to present something here, which is basically distills a lot of how I approach my work. And my background is a production designer. I was an art director for a long time, so became used to creating systems, which I think is really important to talk about here in this forum. I'll get to this, but there's an infographic. Can you put that up? I chair the sustainability committee at my union, which is, to me, a vehicle for working within in this sustainability space. I've met a lot of professionals outside of the film industry and also professionals in the film industry. I work primarily in television, some feature work, occasional commercial, and I approach my work with sort of what I would say is a culture around sustainability. And as soon as the infographic comes up, I can. Oh, that's okay. To me, I think it's really important to set the culture. There's concrete things we can all do, and I actually put in this infographic actionable things, but there's no real silver bullet here. There's nothing that's going to solve the problem entirely, and we have to start somewhere. And that's sort of, as I approach a job, that's how I see it. And it's not just in my department, like Blair said. It's like the art department is usually the first person there in the office. I'm running around to the office production coordinator. I'm like, can we reuse furniture? Can we, can that water bottle be connected to the water source? Why are we bringing a water bottle? So I'm like running around telling everybody. So it's just like setting up the culture early. I have Zooms with creative people on a project. I have a sustainability Zoom from my union. I purposefully don't change it. I actually, so I'll step into this Zoom room and it'll say, United Scenic Artists Sustainability Committee. And so it's like a conversation starter. It's like the first thing I do. In that framework, my job is to be a production designer. So it's to create the look of the show. So that's my first job. And then within that framework, I believe that I have a responsibility to make decisions that layer sustainability over all those decisions that we all make on every project. So if you keep scrolling, yeah. So I made this infographic to kind of illustrate the idea here, which is, this is what we all encounter as designers. The gray represents kind of externalities that we don't really have control over: schedule changes, director availability, production in general, cast availability, and then our decision framework between budgets, creative, and scheduling. And there's intersecting aspects of all of that, where we are working with a script and the creators and the director and the producer and the DOP and the designer and costume designer. That's what we're in, that yellow zone of creativity. And we have all these intersecting parts, and we make decisions based on all of these factors, right? Budget, creative, scheduling, and we have to do our job, and this is sort of distills what our job is. If you go to the next frame. The thought here is that you layer sustainability as one of the pillars of decision making. And that's what I've learned to do, is I don't feel like like I said, there's no real one answer. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic material that's going to make our industry, sustainable. It starts with layering that decision making, which we do every day as designers, with this notion of sustainability. And how it comes to in a practical way is, if I'm deciding something based on a budget or scheduling reason, I then layer sustainability over it, and I say, well, how is that out of those is going to be the most sustainable? If you go to the next slide, and it's all sort of distilled here as well within each of the different zones that I believe we get to sustainability through our work, which is setting a culture, set your intentions with your crew, practice, organization, and circularity. Now this document, can you put the QR code up? So this document has a lot in it, and I created a QR code because I didn't want to print anything. You can take a photo of the QR code and download this for yourself. But so the idea being here is that you just layer this idea of sustainability within your work as a culture. Now I could use. Should I go on to sort of a case study of?
Yeah.
Is the QR code? Oh, okay. So after the QR code comes, I'll show you some photos of. Tell you about a case study of one example of how I utilized this sustainability decision making. I worked on a project called Dear Edward for Apple TV, and it's based on a best-selling novel about a young boy who survives a plane crash and everyone dies. So, plane crash. Of course, it's a big set. It feels like it's going to be. So, does that work? It's working? Okay, great. So there's a lot in that document that you can sort of read. And then if you want, you can get to the photos of the sets. So in my prep for Dear Edward, I had to create an airplane fuselage, or a real airplane that people got on. And then we had to crash this airplane and create a debris field. And through prep, we kept thinking about how we're going to approach this. There were a lot of factors, special effects that we had to do with shaking the plane and fuselage and whatnot. So, so here's the debris field. So a lot of this is made up of just scrap metal, but then we did get airplane parts from a supplier. And before we actually started this debris field, we came up with a plan on how we're going to get rid of this material. A lot of what is in this, which you can't really see, is it's terrible, but like luggage and clothing and things. So I made it a directive with the set decorating department that everything would be bought secondhand. That we're not going to buy anything new for any of the debris from personal items. That's sort of an easy one. Unfortunately, a lot of that had to be thrown away because it was muddy or dirty or burnt. So in that case, you can't do anything about that, and that happens. We did rent some airplane parts that were then sent back to the vendor, which was important. We talked about building some of them, but I thought that was going to be too wasteful. And so the scrap metal was actually given to another show, and the things that we purchased were given to another show, and we pre-planned that all. And the show that had another plane crash debris field. The airplane itself, we talked about building it with all the different factors that we had went into creating the story. But we did some calculations between building and renting. We couldn't actually find a plane, so we were thinking we had to use all these resources to build a structure that would withstand gimbaling and shaking and all this stuff. So we went through the calculations of the carbon footprint of making something like this. And so we found a vendor who didn't have the parts, but decided to work with us to create a sort of a production rental where he would purchase these airplanes. And I found out that a lot of these airplanes are put into a field in somewhere dry, like Arizona or Texas or somewhere like that. And they just stay there until someone scraps them and they need the space. So this person we worked with found 2 different fuselages and created a system for us to rent from him, and he would take them back. So when we were calculating all of this, it wasn't just financial, it was this sort of sustainability part of it, and knowing that if we're going to take something that's inherently already structural, so that's good, we're going to rent it and send it back, so that's good. The only aspect of it was sort of the carbon footprint to get the airplanes to New York. But we factored in that into the decision making. There were some metrics we had to look up, which there's carbon calculators you can do. And in the end, it was, I think, also creatively better, and it was the more sustainable choice. Some of this sounds obvious, but sometimes it's not, you know. And I had to talk with the producers a lot about it. I really had to get in there and tell them, you know, this isn't just financial decisions. You know, this is sustainable decisions. And it wound up costing more to do what we did, but I think there was an aspect of the sustainability that got everyone on board, you know, from the director to the producer. And making that known that I wanted to do that is part of that culture and how I approach my work. So.
And when you do things in a circularity fashion, there's no new spins. Do you know what I mean? When you can reuse something, you're not. There's that money transfers from one project to another. So when you look at things overall, it does actually reduce as time goes by.
It does. Sometimes sometimes the sustainable choice is the cheaper choice, just by nature of using less. You know, so in this case, it necessarily wasn't, but I was happy that we made the right sustainable choice. And that plane has gone back into circulation with this vendor who now will use it. I don't know if anybody has dealt with renting planes, but what's out there is not great, you know, and they're usually like really short. And it was really important to me that there was a full fuselage. I don't know if we got to pictures of the interior, but I wanted the plane to be full from beginning to end. And I don't know if there's a shot all the way down, but so these were all iPads, by the way. In the back of the seats, we had to develop a whole system for the iPads. It was an Apple show, and we had to buy the iPads, by the way. So I'm sure you all know. But they bought them back. Okay, so here, yeah, you can't rent a plane like this. Like, it doesn't, except from this vendor.
Air Hollywood in LA. You should come shoot in LA.
Well, no, but no one's going to go to, we couldn't, this was in New York, yeah. So they put 2 fuselages together. But, you know, so creatively it worked out much better.
We had to do that. I had to put 3 fuselages together from one from Germany, one from Portugal, one from the United Kingdom in Budapest. But fortunately, I got in touch with some other productions that were working in Budapest that needed a plane afterwards, so we didn't ship them back. We were able to store them, and the two productions shared the storage costs to not ship the planes back and leave them in Budapest for 2 months until they were ready for them. Right. So, but it took me contacting the other productions and saying, do we need a plane? Anybody? Anyone? Plane? Yes? Yes, you? Okay, here's your plane.
That's great. That also has to do with what Mara was talking about this morning about leaving a set up and then having people reuse it. It is, I think, building community and communicating with other people can help with sustainability.
And that's oftentimes something that's really hard. Like we are so, with soft prep is disappearing. Crews that are big enough to do the job are disappearing. Money is disappearing. The only thing that's not disappearing is the production value that we're asked to make. So we're already behind the 8 ball with this, and we have a tendency to get within our heads, and we're afraid to spend money. We're afraid to put things out there. We don't want to be called out. We kind of want to hide behind some decisions sometimes because we're a creative field and we want to tell people what to do. But really, we need to lead that charge and have those conversations and not be afraid to make bold choices and talk to people because there are solutions behind closed doors.
Exactly. It's a little bit ties into the discussion this morning around advocating for ourselves. And that's what I feel like as a designer, yes, advocate for myself for the design process, but like I said, I'm getting in there early and talking about sustainability with anyone who will listen. And people laugh, producers I've worked with, oh, you're the sustainability guy, it's like, and yes, I want to be known as that, and sometimes it's a joke, but it's not a joke, and I think that's important to put that front out there and advocate for that as a designer because we have that agency and we have that power. We're usually the first in the same way that we do that for our budgets and for what we're fighting for as designers.
And we are creating these aspirational worlds that people on TV go to watch. And until now, there's been these two kind of tropes about eco warriors. There's like the angry shouting person who is made fun of for just being an activist and being mad all the time. Or there's the butt of the joke. There's somebody who's a bit crunchy and just everybody's eye roll and dismisses them, like Phoebe from Friends. So we all know she's the good one, right? Back in the day, we were like, oh, that fluffy one. But yeah, she was the good one out of the bunch, and we know that now. But so we have to rewrite this narrative as the storytellers that we are, but as the doers that we are. I'm just going to repeat things again and again and again because we all know about, through politics, if you say something again and again and again, it just becomes a fact. So, yeah. And I would love to hear a little bit. Do you have more to show? Are you? I'm showing you the projects, and then I've got some really hard-hitting questions for you guys. But I would love to hear, you have an amazing thing with waterless paint that I'm really excited about. So please tell us about your project.
Hello, so I'm Valérie, I'm a French production designer. And as you said, I'd like to share the experience we had on a movie calling Being Maria. And it's independent
feature film, of which we get more of them now.
Yeah. Okay. And it's about the life of Maria Schneider, and it's a historical movie, and we had a lot of sets to do, but from the very beginning, I wanted to do it in a eco-friendly way. And as you said, for the future, and because I think it have to come from the production designers. And as I heard yesterday, Rick Carter, he said creativity is the antidote to destruction. Yeah.
Yes.
And this rings in me, and I want to say creativity and sustainability is the antidote to destruction. And I would like to share with you all the methods we did. My hand is shaking, okay. To do a movie quite in a studio, and I decided the production to go in the studio because I thought it's going to be less expensive and more sustainability. So it maybe look very contradictory to do a movie in the studio and do it in a sustainability way, but I'd like to explain how we did.
It's brilliant, actually.
Okay. No? Can you? Well, this research table, I'm not sure I'm going to talk a lot about this, but this was the start of my decision to work in a more sustainable way. It says if you are born in 2010, okay, passed. What resource will I have left? And this means that as production designer, we use a lot of resources. And during the pandemic, we saw that in France, I don't know in America, but it was difficult to find wood and to find some resources. So we have a real responsibility to try not to waste the resources. So this is the, yes, this is Maria, this is the movie. Wait, can you pass it, please? Okay, so the way we worked according to reverse design. And reverse design means we went, first we drew, and I drew, and I have a discussion with the director and the production. And after I explained to them that I want to rent quite all the flats, not buy wood and make and throw it away, but recycle everything. So for this, we create Eco Ciné, which is a collective group of production designers and head painters and many people from construction and everything, yeah. And we think and we try materials and way to be more sustainable. And we create with this little group. I co-create with someone which is in the room, William, and as a production designer. We co-create La Ressourcerie du Cinéma, and I heard that you have a ressourcerie eco.
Yeah, EcoSet in Los Angeles is really similar to, it sounds like, to Ressourcerie du Cinema. And years ago when I was in New York, there was Film Biz Recycling, but I don't know if that's
Sadly,
still around.
no more. I mean, they are online. Actually, that's not true. They actually have one in Savannah, Georgia, but not run by the same person in New York. But it's been sort of franchised. But we're trying to we'd love to get it back in New York. There is Art Cube, but we have very little resources in New York, which is like another topic about resources. But yes, sadly we don't have a lot of that in New York.
We've got Scenery Salvage in the UK, which is a very similar ethos. So people are trying.
But Valérie, like you set this up from scratch, like you didn't have one, and then you.
No, we didn't.
You made it.
We had one long time ago when it was in the French National Studio. But after everything was thrown away, on La Ressourcerie du Cinéma, the particularities, it have been made by production designers. But it's a drop in the ocean because only 3% of the movie gives to them. And in 8 months, they collect 100 tons of wood. So you see, it's only 3%, 100 tons, so we can do better. For the and just I want to mention EcoProd, which is an association who works really hardly, and I represent EcoProd with William from years. So we started how maybe you can.
The next slide.
Yeah. So this is the map, the map, the plan.
This is
Yeah.
your plan for all your
Yeah.
sets. And the purple ones?
Yes, and what you see in purple, it's the flats we rent. And the other one, we were obliged to build them because they were windows. But at the end, so maybe you can put the other one, please.
Valérie, you have something to say very important, is that this set is already a movie set, historically, or Paris. So on the thing
I have so much to say, but I want to be quick. Yeah, it's the historical set of Last Tango in Paris. So
yes.
I had to do the same, but
You had to repeat it because it's already been filmed. You had to recreate the same set.
yes, I had to but in fact, it was more complicated because Bertolucci family didn't want us to repeat the seat. And they said that to the production that if there is 60 points the same, like the hair of Maria, or the costumes, or the color of the carpet and everything, they're going to attack the movie. So I started to, it's a little story, but it's amazing. Yes, so I started to build, and it was really, complicated to say to the production, yes, we are going to do it in studio because we have to do exactly the same set, and we couldn't find it in the location. And we start the construction, and 2 weeks after they said, oh, you cannot build this because Bertolucci family don't want. So I proposed to do everything in reverse. For example, but I had to do the spirit of the Last Tango because people are going to see the movie and wants to recognize it. So I have to have the spirit, but not the copy. So, for example, I put the red carpet, which is in the round place, in the other place, and I put the yellow carpet. I make everything like this. And for example, in the beginning, you saw the wall. Yeah. But I'll show you later. And I did it at reverse.
Is there a slide to show? Can you go to the slides that show the walls?
Yes. Okay. So in the Last Tango, the color is from the flow.
Goes up.
And goes up.
You reverse the ombre.
Yes, I reverse, and I change a little the color.
What is this material that you're putting on the walls?
Yes. I will explain, but I just want to say that in the other photo, you saw that we rent all the windows, we rent all the molders, we rent all the wood. We quite didn't buy wood except for the round
bits.
Yeah. And all the floors, we rent them. So at the end, we quite had no waste. And so we didn't use skips. And what? Trash? Okay.
And did you give them back? Didn't you give the flats back to them with the windows and everything intact so the next production could use them?
Yes, exactly.
That's great.
But the problem with the flats is that if you put texture on it, after you cannot reuse the flat. So this chief painter, head painter, which name is Sabine Barthélemy, and she's very active in Eco Deco. She invented this process, and maybe we can show a very short movie, 1-minute movie, to explain better.
Great. There's a link there. That's great. Can I just say, I love the part when the coving was coming off, because anytime I've ever asked construction to take coving and things out, they're just like, nah, in the skip. You know, but if you could put things on so they can come off like that and not use the brad nails and actually use screws and attach things can be taken. I mean, that's how we used to do things, you know, and put things in scene dogs. That made me really happy seeing the coving come off.
Yes,
the walls.
Absolutely. And I worked very closely with the chief builder, and he was happy because instead of making flats like this, he had to think a lot. So it's maybe a little bit longer, but the economy we do on the wood and on the furniture material, we put it in salary, you know? So it's not less expensive, but it's not more expensive. And if I have time, I just want to explain
this magic paint. I love this.
Can we just say, though, that the material that your chief painter was using is a completely sustainable? Did you mention that? Okay. It's really remarkable, honestly.
Yeah, if we go back to that slide, there's a picture of the material that's really cool, this stuff.
Okay, the T-board is recycled furniture made with old end-of-life clothing, yeah. So jeans and everything. And William worked with a lady who she did this to make bags and many things, and he asked her to compress it and make it
A rolled material.
yes. And I'll explain later, maybe it could replace wood, but yes.
To surface your flats.
Yes, I will explain in another. But here, this T-board have a plastic, but not plastic, cone, plastic made with cone behind, so it don't, so you can reuse your flat easier. Okay, if it's only material, it goes and your flat will be dirty. So, and sorry? Yes,
Make it
waterproof.
waterproof.
Thank you, Anne.
How does it attach to the wall? How does it adhere?
No, stapled.
Stapled.
Stapled. Yeah, and another thing which is nice with this way of making sets is that, as you see, the painters can work on the floor and not put the texture like this, and you know.
It doesn't make a giant mess.
And the other thing is, so the builders and the painters can work together. I don't have to wait that it's built and after it's paint, and we wait for the texture to be dry. And so I win a lot of time with this method, and this makes me win money. And they work together, and they are so happy to be in the same, place. Yeah.
How do you get the color that you want? How do you mix the color? It's the next slide.
Okay. So with this chief painter, we try to go very far and to make our painting very ecological way with a flower. So it's a painting made with pigments and flower. So it's cost nothing. It's 1 packet of flour to make the lions. And I know when I do my budget with the production, I tell them that I'm going to buy painting, and I put in the budget the price of the real painting, but I knew that we are going to make painting that costs nothing, and it's beautiful. Have you seen the colors? And so this economy, I can put it in the salary too. So it's a way to be sustainable and to
Make a little magic pocket
yes,
of money in
make
the budget.
the economy, But I don't say it at the beginning. No.
Magic pockets of money.
And I just finished with this machine that we discover in Belgium in the studio, the television studio in Belgium, and we develop it. Ecodeco Cine developed it with a man who wanted to adapt it for the movies. So I write everything because it's a little bit difficult to understand. So this machine, with this machine, we did all the set. So it's around 500 meters square with only 30 liters of water.
That's amazing. That is amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So with this machine, you can wash your rolls. It help me.
Uses high pressure water.
Yeah. I explained him on. But the key of this method is the eco solution, and the eco solution. The eco solution is made with natural plants that make a little like alcohol, as alcohol is made with natural grapes and everything. And you put your brush in the bucket or in the machine, and it separates the water from the paint, and the paint.
The paint settles and the alcohol pushes it out.
Thank you. And after you have a mold like this. So if you want, you can take the molds and go to the resource place to throw it away. Or as we tried with this chief painter, we made bricks with the molds. We put
with the
to
sludge.
reuse everything and throw it away, nothing. Okay. No.
Amazing. So that's yes. Thank you. Me too. That's ingenious.
But it's. I really want to say it's a collective. So I didn't do it only myself. The only thing is that maybe I'm the first production designer to set to the production. Okay, we are going to do like this in studio, and believe me, it will be less expensive. And this production and this director, the DP, everyone was okay. So we did it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh yes, you won a prize, didn't you? Tell us about your prize. You all have won prizes.
We had a prize in Cannes because the movie was in Cannes. We win the prize of eco production prize. Okay.
And that's great. That is, I mean, we were talking about, prizes and awards earlier, but in this particular situation, it's really great to get any kind of visibility, any kind of recognition. And something that we can't discount is that there are so many different forms of currency. And for a production to be able to say, we've done this in a sustainable way, or we've saved something, it appeals to the public. And the public is going to back whatever is making them happy. And so this is the trend forward, and it needs to be our future anyway. So if we could convince a production to do things in this way, that's a form of currency that they can take to the bank. Do you know? So let's not discount that as well.
Yeah. I just want to say that for me, sustainability, so it's possible, and it's humanism. So we have to educate and to share our experiences.
Absolutely. I've got some questions for you guys, but I wanted to show you guys something really cute first. I've been a sustainability champion from the very beginning of my career in small ways, in the fact that I can't throw anything away. Everywhere, my car, my house, everything, it's just like I'm closing in on stuff. I just can't throw anything away. I worked from Nickelodeon. I kept a little prop store close to the studios where I saved every block of styrofoam, every end of paint, everything. And people could come to me in the middle of the night and say, I really need a can of spray. And I'll have it because they don't have to take the truck and go all the way across town. I'm always looking to recycle trash. And I was just doing a production, a Ridley Scott film in Tunisia about a war. And the whole show was about helicopters and guns. And 10 days before we were to shoot, we find out that the government, the whole reason why we were going there, reneged on the helicopters and the guns. So we now have 10 days to figure out how I'm going to make a set with no helicopters and no guns. And I'm like, come on, really, seriously, okay. So I'm told that we can bring something in, if you go to my slides, I'm told we can bring some things in from Morocco, but it's going to be super expensive. It's going to take a lot of different airfares and different ships and everything to bring it over there. It's going to spend so much fossil fuels, and it was just a horrible way to do things. So I thought, we can actually make this. Let's get these guys to minimize what they need. I'm going to talk to the DP, and I'm like, this is your angle, and this is your angle, and this is all you can see. I'm sorry, you can't see 360, you're gonna have to stick to this. And borrowing the line from somebody said earlier, I walked in with the swagger that a DP would have and said, this is what we are doing, and this is what's gonna happen. So we scoured the desert, the Sahara Desert, for scraps, and you can cycle through these quite fast. These are some things I just found kind of randomly, wandering the Sahara. And we picked them up and said, we're going to make a helicopter out of these things. And we did. We harvested things. I found a washing machine and took the drum out of it. These are all scraps and shrapnel that we found in the desert. There's my washing machine. So all of this made a helicopter. The next picture. Okay, that's us. Stuck in the desert, because you've heard the expression, shifting sands of the Sahara. That's a real thing. That's just not a line. Like, you're driving and then suddenly there's no road. Like, the sand's just there. Anyway, that's fun. That's us getting out of there. This is an airplane, a helicopter that I went to when we went across the desert to Sousse, to a boat building manufacturer. And I gave them this picture and said, can you make this with all of these parts that I'm bringing you? And go to the next one. That's what it should have looked like. And I said, how close to this can we get from all these scraps? From this wheel here, and this dial here, and this bit of an airplane here. We put them all together. Go to the next one. That's what it should have looked like when it was all spread out. And they're just looking at me with a blank eye. I'm like, you make boats, right? You can make things, you can make shapes. Can you take all these things and stick them together with this fiberglass and that glue and make a helicopter? That was the concept of what it should look like. And go to the next one. That's us welding things together in the desert in 45-degree heat. That's 130 to all those of us in Fahrenheit. And that's what we ended up with. So that is all the scraps that you just saw and a little bit of boat building expertise from a man on the coast in Seuss. That is the angle that I allowed our DP to see. It had a tiny bit. That was the thing. If you moved to the left or the right, there was nothing, man. There's freaking nothing there. That is the shot from the actual film. And then there's one more shot from the actual film. And I think it looks all right for a bunch of junk, right? 10 days. 10 days. But all that is like me absolutely freaking out and saying, right, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't have that. Right, we have one truck. Whatever we're gonna get is gonna fit on the truck. Options, I know you like options, you're not getting any. 2 options, you can have this one or this one. And we've got to get people to minimize these crazy requests that we were asked for. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to commit to anything. They just want us to bring everything and put it in front of them so they can make a last-minute decision on the last day. And I don't know how this sort of mentality has been allowed to prevail, but we got to shut it down. That is up to us. Shut that right on down. I wanted to put another S word in there, but I'm not going to. We have to tell people to minimize and to think things through and to plan. And I know things happen, actors' availability, somebody gets sick. You know, we always have to react and come up with the magic. But we are really great at our jobs. We are not magic. And we can't be just wasteful and bringing these things that never get used. We have to communicate with everybody and minimize. Right, that's my spiel. So I have a couple of questions, and we've only got about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure you guys have some time. One last thing. One thing, travel. This is something I just wanted to throw out there. I know that all of us came here on trains, planes, automobiles, everything, and that's really super, super wasteful. But there are companies you can do. I've noticed when you book your airplane, you can say, is there a carbon offset that you can do? I'm not sure if I always trust those places, but there's companies like Cool Effects that you can type in whatever your travel plan is when you're going on set, when you're going on location. And they have an offset that you can give to them, you can donate to them, that they will put into offsetting what you've just done in your fuel. Like, for instance, my entire trip here, I paid $38.67. And they're taking that money and they're putting it for something that will neutralize what I've spent to come over here on my own. So I want to just drop that there. Cool. One thing, I guess the main thing I wanted to ask you guys is, how and when do you start discussing your plans with production? And what are the languages that you guys use? How do you convince them to be on board with you? And what is the biggest obstacle? Who is the biggest obstacle? I think this is the elephant in the room, really.
I'll go ahead with that. So I bring it up at the beginning, and I don't harp on it. I'm just like, we're going to be sustainable, and we're going to be on time, and we're going to be on budget, and it's going to look good. You know, it's just one of these many points, one of these many like tenets of the job that I don't think should get any pushback. But obviously there's all the stereotypes that we talked about, where there's people that think that it's going to be very expensive. I think there's the common thought is kind of like this Whole Foods mentality of like, if you're going to eat in a healthy, eco-friendly way, you need to go to a really expensive grocery store. And if you're going to make a really sustainable set, you need to get these boutique services to pay for things. And that's not true. That's not my experience. There's a lot of ways to do this. So I just reassure them that it's going to be within their budget. And to convince them of that, or at least to bring it up in conversation, I always put in my budget, I always put a line for trash. So on these Audible commercials that I was telling you about, I usually put $300 to $500 for a waste fee, and then I'll make something a little bit smaller, like $200 to donate it to EcoSet. Just to say, like, if we're able to use our truck to take it to this facility instead of straight to the dump, or instead of renting a dumpster, it's cheaper. But it is something where I bring up the cost of trash, because it's an actual cost, in the budget. So at least when I am then analyzing or getting pushback from producers on what every line item is that I put in my budget when they're trying to cut it, we at least have a discussion about waste. And then the biggest issue that I have is their creativity. People get really creative with when you bring up sustainability. They have a lot of creative reasons why it's not going to work. Copyright infringement and cost and time and all sorts of things. And I have to be more creative than them. I have to come up with more creative solutions. So for every creative no that they have, I have to come up with more creative yeses. And I get it from producers, and I get it from other people on my team or other people in our department. And I just, for every one reason they have no, I have 3 other solutions. And over the years, hearing these no's has actually given me practice for coming up with more creative solutions.
Yes, oh, Q&A. Oh my goodness, okay. Let me ask one more question, or do you want to chime in on this? Because I know you said something earlier.
Well, I can be very brief. So you all heard it, I sort of start with this culture, and I make it very known that sustainability is important. And I put line items in, budget line items for sustainable choices. I make myself known to the sustainability committee, or rather executives at wherever company I'm working for. I just try to be the loudest person in the room with regard to that. Obstacles, I think, tend to be, we're such a bespoke industry. It just tends to be sort of like infrastructure from our employers, which I think they need to set up a little bit more of that. And frankly, actor and director availability, because if you can't get, for directors, if you can't get answers on things, you don't have the time then to make the best sustainable choices. So I'd like to see directors and actors be a little bit more influential in making those choices for sustainability. But that where I see is a lot of obstacles there. So. Yeah.
Well, I think with these other 2 questions, what I'm going to actually do, so we can have a whole 15 minutes for talking, I just want to put these questions out there into our little universe so that we could all be thinking about them, which is innovation and inspiration. What innovative sustainable design techniques have inspired our work? How do we stay updated with the latest sustainable practices in filmmaking? And also, do we come to the table with all the information, or do we rely on the art directors to come up with all the things? We as designers should be taking things from the top down. This is something that we all really need to take on board. And then the other last thing is the audience engagement, and I touched on this earlier. How can filmmakers engage audiences with sustainability themes through production designs, things that we can aspire to as a society? And I think we all have examples of films that we have used design effectively has communicated a sustainable message for us to have. Like, don't go to the gas station and fill up something, but like have an EV car when you park and you just plug it in instead, or just walking through your office and filling your water bottle. We don't have to hit people over the heads with a message, but if they just kind of organically happen in our design, that's moving us forward as a society, and I think that's our job as well. So we would like to open the floor up to some questions for our lovely, gorgeous designers.
Hello. First of all, I wanted to thank you because I didn't know that you were the first person who used this machine. For the painting. We transformed the painting as the stones and everything. Because I didn't know, we used it recently for a commercial, and that it was also eco-friendly. We use it in an eco-friendly way. And we also rented some molders that you use in your film, in your association. So I wanted to tell you that it works, what you're doing is working, and it's fantastic. And there is only a certain point if people is renting that machine. It's smelling a bit. They put it outside of my studio. It's quite smell a lot, so we put it outside of the studio.
In fact, if you know how to use it, it don't smell, because I use it 3 months with this shift painter and the team, 5 painters in the team, and it didn't smell at all. It was not a studio, it was an apartment, so we couldn't put the bad water in the canalization. So this is the other nice thing of this machine, is that you don't put pollution on the flow, About your question about production, I think in France we have something now. The production are obliged to say at the end of the movie which is the footprint that we have on the movie. So in France they become very interested by sustainability, even if for me 80% of the movies are greenwashing. I mean, people only put the garbage, yes, and it's not. And I just want to say two things. Our department is 20% of the footprint of a movie, around 20%. So we are really one of the more
Wasteful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the flats are 60% of the 20%. So it's very important to be carefully with the water, because soon water will miss. But the first thing you have to do is the flats. I say for the young person here.
Reuse, reuse, reuse.
Yes, reuse and recycle. And the second thing is the internet. And for example, when I start the movie, I said to my team, we are not going to send emails in the office. If you want to show me a photo, if you want to share a location, we use a USB key. And it's very difficult for the young people, but we use AirDrop. But one email is like a lamp, which is one email with a photo, is like a lamp which is light on 4 hours. Really? Yes.
I did not know that.
So you have to be careful with this. And the EA, we didn't talk about this, but it's multiplied by 4 the footprint. So it's not only the flats and everything, it's
how we use energy and how we
share. You have to take off your computer when you go to eat, because it uses energy, and many things like this that I said to my team and to the production. And okay, that's what I want to say.
Thank you, that's super valuable. I was not aware of that. Another question? We've got one here.
Hi. So there are countries where you don't have many resources. I come from a small island, and I did this movie with Jean-Francois Richet, I'm sure I said it wrong, called Plane. It was about a plane. And we we didn't have enough money or time to bring the pieces, rent them like you did. So we did have to build. We found a plane that was at an aviary school. It was stripped interior. We built in stage. We filmed the exterior. We created the engines. And at the end of the movie, we put all that in the school, and they were able to use it to actually teach stewardesses and other things that they couldn't do before because it was in a field and it was too hot. So now it was in interior. And then the exterior, they were able to keep all the finishes that they didn't have before on the plane. So that was pretty cool. My question to you would be, what if you're in a place, I know that you have your resources, at least you have some sort of like logistics where you live, but you all probably travel. What do you do when you're forced to go to, or you land in a country where you don't have any resources and you have to work that way?
Yeah, you have a much, okay, yeah. I just went from like Los Angeles to Gary, Indiana, and I've also spoken a lot with Eva Radke, who started Film Biz Recycling in Art Cube in New York. And her advice, in my experience, is when you're just traveling to a city that you're unfamiliar with, is to look up their local reuse center, even if it has nothing to do with film. So there'll be some sort of thrift store. If you're lucky enough, it's a place where they recycle art supplies. You call them and you say, I'm going to be there for the next couple months. I expect to have these sort of materials. What advice do you have? And they might point out to a school, a local college, all sorts of stuff. So it's sort of scouting. You can even do that before you get there, is calling and talking to the person who runs that store. And then I have a lot more advice, but I want... And
carrying on from that, I'm working with Shooting Locations Marketplace, which is a collection of different film councils from different countries, small islands, small places, with all the different film councils, and we're trying to educate them to make a guidebook and a production template, basically, so that when a production comes into their place, they've already got a list of local vendors, better suppliers, protocols in place, ways to protect their natural ecosystem and their historical archaeological sites. It's really it's not always up to us. We need to have a guidebook that's kind of a universal language that everybody's involved with. And I'm really trying to get involved with local film councils to be able to put that together so there's already like an at-a-glance to-go book when people come. Because it's true, if there's not very many materials, you need to be able to recycle and use those and not bring them in for every time. And each production that comes can leave something for the next production, but it all needs to be collective, and as assets need to be shared amongst everybody. So it's happening, and I'm really pushing for that to happen. So we have, 4 more minutes. One more question, or yeah? This guy here.
Hello, thank you very much for all this inspiration here. It's unbelievable what I'm hearing here. And I'm Christian, production designer from Berlin, and I just want to give a short glance back into history because I know very well the Studio Babelsberg close to Berlin. It's a very old and famous sound stages with the history of Metropolis, Marlene, and all that stuff. And in the beginning of the 20s, I did a film as an art director with maybe well-known Rolf Zedbauer, well-known production designer from Germany, about comedian harmonists. And the task was to build this set at that time as close as possible. And I found out that Studio Babelsberg at that time used a flattage system. So this was all completely stored, and it was a matrix of elements. And I found some of them still stored there, and just found out that they had a massive amount of that elements at that time. That was just a matrix you can use to build window openings, door openings, and just reuse this every time again and again. And after the show, all the plaster work was just knocked down, and everything goes back into storage waiting for the next show. And it was a brilliant system, and I think when I hear this, especially with your experience here, to say 20% footprint and 60% of this 20% are the flattage. So we need to go back to a system like this.
Totally agree with you. I mean, that's the way things used to be in Hollywood and everywhere else. And it's storage. Storage is such an asset. It's such a premium, the space to store things. But there now are getting companies that are becoming asset stores that will virtually keep track of. It's like a library of what things are on each production. These things are growing and coming. They're coming. So I think we are going back to that system. And yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yes, I just want to say that as Jean-Vincent explained, the big studio he wants to make and put in this studio a part of reuse. And now we are working with EcoDeco. We meet all the new studios that wants to build, and we meet the architect to say we need to have a place to reuse, we need to have a recyclery, we need to have this machine, and this machine have been bought in 2 studios for the moment in France. It's not enough, but okay. And in the school, La Fémis have this machine, and we try to, but I think it have to come from production designers or painters, because they don't know what we do, the studios, and you know.
I agree.
All that history that in the past 15 to 20 years, as land prices have gone up in Los Angeles, the scene docks have closed, and so there's one left, and it's in Santa Clarita, which is like an hour and a half north of LA. So it's this thing where you can have 100 years of history, and then it just takes these 15 years to throw it out.
Crazy economy.
And now we need to support the businesses that are restarting it. At least that's the system in America, is supporting these new scene docks.
And people who do things in a sustainable way. And we have to wrap this up now. But one closing thought, we've with companies that are doing things in a way and trying to be able to store things and make that less of a traffic. There is a company called Materials Bank, which provides samples and basically tells you about all kinds of different materials that you can use for your product. Instead of getting individual things from each company, they will package together lots of different things and send it to you in one box. They have provided us so many samples here tonight of different building materials. And they're all outside for you guys to have a look at. And if you want to take something, these are all free for you to take. So have a look at how they do things, and please avail yourself to any of the samples that are out there. They're giveaways for you guys. And I'm sorry, we've run completely out of time. I've been told that we have to end right now, but we're all around, and please come hit us up and talk to us some more. Thank you so much for staying here for this conversation, and thank you for my esteemed Amelia, Valérie, and Arnoult for their wonderful projects.